Introduction to those who do as they please. Unparalleled power. Endless wealth. Like a universal wishing machine cheat. Every night in the quiet of the night, when the moon hangs high, I cannot help but fall into deep contemplation. Who else can stop me from doing whatever I want? Complete Old Book. Abyss and Demons of All Realms. Chapter 1. Awakening. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Rich woman. If possible, I hope to have a wealthy woman who can make me eat a soft meal. October 1st, 211th year, 45th century. Rich woman, Guya. I will definitely have a beautiful rich woman. October 24th, 211th year, 45th century. Rich woman, alright. I think I can have many beautiful rich women. The 45th year, November 8th, 211. I am worthy of it. I have a firm mind and am a persistent person. At first glance, it's bound to be a big deal. Time. At 10:40 p.m. on November 9th, 211th year in the 45th century. Location. Japan. Tokyo City. Arakawa Ward. Since it was developed 577 years ago, the overall environment here has always been a relatively ordinary civilian area. Housing prices are relatively common, public security is relatively common, and the economy is relatively common. Even the residents are very common, and there are few wealthy individuals who can afford to take action. In short, it can be said that it is a place where ordinary workers are concentrated. The best advantage is that transportation is relatively convenient. No matter which bustling area you go to work in, it's not too far. And you don't have to worry too much about being stabbed and robbed on the road when you go home late at night. At this moment, under the moonlight, inside a cheap apartment that looks very old just by looking at its exterior, a young boy who looks about 16 or 17 years old is reviewing his diary. His attire is very simple. The black pants look cheap at first glance. The yellow clothes on my body have faded a bit after washing. The most prominent combination throughout the body is the word poverty. But all of this still doesn't affect his appearance. Despite his extremely handsome appearance, even though he looks poor in his attire, his foundation as a top-tier cowherd is still so solid. Give people a sense of rationality that they can go to Nyolang Street to work at any time. At this point, after looking at the diary in front of me with great satisfaction and carefully appreciating its sincere content, he also pulled open his waistband and checked the DLC information inside. In an instant, he immediately nodded uncontrollably. Very good and healthy. Not only with great ambitions in mind. Even more so, it hides great treasures. His mother, who else can stop me? Just thinking about it makes me a little excited. Zishenlian. This is the name of his lifetime. As a reincarnation. One day in Zishenlian's previous life, while walking on the road, he suddenly felt a sense of collapse around him, and then his eyes darkened. Then, by the time he fully regained consciousness, he had already lived here for over 10 years. As an orphan who has been abandoned since childhood. And it's still the kind of brain that's somewhat abnormal, occasionally popping up with a few nonsensical words that others don't understand. In this regard, he fully regained consciousness, or rather awakened Su Hui, fully realized his previous life, and walked out of the obstacle of seeing knowledge today. That's a very wonderful feeling. In the morning, wake up from a nap. He felt like he understood something. But still a bit confused. Just instinctively understanding some mysterious principles. And as time passed, it was evening. He also finally realized the various aspects of his past and present life. The mind, which had been somewhat inexplicably confused all year round, suddenly became unprecedentedly clear. At the same time, he also clearly felt the difference in himself. A certain trait that slowly emerged on me half a month ago is emerging at an extremely fast pace. At a speed far beyond the past that is a trait known in this world as the awakened, the destiny, and the born mighty. Belonging to the traits of the extraordinary. For Shishinlian. In the previous life, there may have been some extraordinary power in that original world. But he has never been in contact with it, nor has he heard of it clearly. At most, it's just some catchy legends. But in this lifetime, the existence of extraordinary power is truly a clear and incomparable thing. The kind that is beyond doubt. In the earliest historical records of humanity, it has already been clearly recorded and revered as a divine power that ordinary people cannot violate. And this power, commonly referred to as the awakened in modern times, is by no means a hidden entity. Throughout history, it has had a profound impact on the entire process of human civilization. Including but not limited to leading human civilization forward and destroying human civilization. Take the historical record form of this world as an example. The so-called G. The historical units ranked above, year, month, and day. It actually refers to some kind of huge storm that has occurred before. A huge storm capable of affecting the entire human civilization. Every time we go through that huge storm, the historical era will enter the next era in the second year. And that kind of huge disturbance usually refers to one thing. The man-made disasters and super wars sweeping the world. World War. Therefore, as of the 45th chapter where Zishenlian is currently located, the whole world has already experienced at least 45 rounds of artificial turmoil at the level of World War. At least, as far as Shishinlian knows. It has been vaguely mentioned in various historical records that in the distant past, there was actually a very long history, and that period of history that was too far away was called super-ancient history. And the vague distinction between ancient history and super-ancient history, which is the historical boundary of the first age, is almost a major event that caused the discontinuity of human civilization history. The birthplace of human civilization. The day of land sinking on the continent of Atlantis. In the various textbooks learned in the life of Zishenlian, the recorded mythological stories describe the Atlantis continent as the richest and largest land on the entire planet, and it was a shining pearl among the 7 continents at that time. Its sinking not only led to the destruction of the vast majority of ancient human civilization and a great decline in technology, but only a few lucky ones escaped and migrated to remote continents. This has led to a global climate response and environmental change. For example, rising sea levels and frequent storms caused the raging flood to inundate a large amount of land on the other 6 continents. However, even so, at present, the Earth in this world still has a land area of approximately 3.5 billion square kilometers on the surface of existing planets. More than 20 times larger than the previous life. And these land areas only account for 17% of the total surface area of the current planet. Even with over 40 billion modern humans living on it, there are still plenty of undeveloped and unexplored areas that are sufficient for a larger population to use. From this, one can slightly imagine how vast the former Atlantis was as the largest continent on the entire planet. As for how did Atlantis sink on land? This brings us back to the essence of the problem: in what form are the awakened ones influencing the historical process of human civilization? It is said that Atlantis was sunk by a group of awakened beings, belonging to the type of influence that is extremely violent in form and has extremely negative effects. Chapter 2. Expectations for the Future. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The sinking of the continent of Atlantis. For the entire human civilization, it has not only caused great disasters, but also led to a great decline in knowledge and population. It also symbolizes that human civilization has walked out of ancient history and opened up a chapter belonging to ancient history. The First Age. And throughout the process, the impact caused by the awakeners continues. In many subsequent years. Out of the total 45 chapters of history, approximately 38 chapters were opened due to the turmoil caused by various awakenings. That is to say, the awakened ones have caused a huge uproar of at least 38 World War levels by the way. The remaining 7 times, when traced back, are still closely related to the awakened to this day. Even if we remove the fact that the continent of Atlantis, which was sunk by land, has not yet been fully verified. The awakened ones have clear records of their achievements, including piercing the continental shelf, creating a super tsunami, establishing a global unified empire, flying out of the planet to explore the starry sky, slaughtering billions of ancient humans, destroying old civilizations, and causing technological degradation. They served as nobles, leaders, gods, rulers, destroyers in various eras. So that's why their strength and dominance are completely something that cannot be concealed. Even ordinary people can vaguely see scratches on the moon over 5 million kilometers away when they lift their heads at night. And those scratches, or rather the Great Rift Valley, are one of the traces left by some awakened individuals as history opens a new chapter. In this world, there are written records of 100,000 years of human history. The awakened have always been at the top of the human class. Even in modern times, the same applies. It's just that due to various ideological changes, the status gap is not as vastly different as before, or it's just a sign of arrogance. Because of this, when Shi Shunlian gradually awakened his own power half a month ago, his longing for a rich woman instantly sublimated his thoughts. Became wanting a beautiful rich woman and many very beautiful rich women. These two psychological processes respectively represent whether he is still somewhat uncertain about whether he is an awakened person or fully affirming himself as an awakened person. He knows that when things are confirmed, even if he is just an awakener with the lowest potential, it is enough for him to realize his own ideas. Besides that, during this half-month period, as his traits slowly awakened, his memories from this life and the previous life continued to complement each other, and finally, he fully awakened Su Hui today. Over the past decade or so, due to the chaotic presentation of memories from the previous life in the mind of this life, from time to time, he would feel that some scenes he had seen in a previous life appeared in front of him. Or you can't help but say 2 sentences in Chinese and English from the previous life. In the context of this life, there is no doubt that languages from the previous life appear somewhat out of place. Take English as an example. The English of the previous life is vastly different from that of this life. It can only be said that the letters are similar, but when they form a sentence, it means that the wind, horse, and ox do not match. So, Shi Shunlian's occasional utterance of words from his previous life can easily make people feel that this kid is talking nonsense, and it's the kind of nonsense that ordinary people can't understand. Moreover, sometimes he inexplicably sees and hears many illusions. Walking on the flat road, I see myself descending the stairs. Walking on the street, I heard BGM from the animal world. This kind of abnormal situation makes him a type of person who, although very good looking, has some brain problems in the eyes of many people. Even the dean who picked him up for adoption in an orphanage could only shake his head and sigh. If it weren't for occasional mental abnormalities, Shi Shunlian would have been adopted long ago. By the way, his name, Shi Shunlian, actually comes from a very simple source. The orphanage director found him near the temple to the west of his home. In addition, he looked completely flawless at the time, but was inexplicably abandoned, which is really pitiful. Therefore, the orphanage director simply gave him the name, Shi Shunlian, which sounds a bit feminine but can also be used by men, and the meaning is very concise. Of course later on, as Shi Shunlian grew up and exhibited his occasional abnormal behavior and words, the dean immediately felt that he understood why the other party had been abandoned in the past. I think it was discovered by parents at birth that their brain was not functioning properly. Even the former Shi Shunlian herself felt the same way. He has been somewhat insecure and has been refusing to be adopted. And for such things, besides saying grass, there is nothing more to say about Shi Shunlian now. At this moment, after sorting out my thoughts, Shi Shunlian closed her diary. Then casually pulled the diary, which was dozens of pages thick, was torn open and folded again, torn back and forth. Not long after, he forcefully tore it into small pieces and then threw it into the nearby trash can. After all, how can a serious person write a diary? Not at all. Complete this action. He clenched his fist. I couldn't help but sigh. Speaking of which, I should have a few tons of power now. Tearing apart dozens of pages of a diary with bare hands, an ordinary person in the previous life can actually do the same. But tearing it in half, 4, 8, 16. After stacking them together, it is still as easy to tear it off as tearing a piece of paper, which is completely beyond the scope of ordinary people. Say it. He looked at the table in front of him. A solid old wooden table with a thickness of approximately 5 centimeters. This is the cheap apartment he rented, one of his own furniture. He covered the surface of the table with his left hand and exerted a slight force on his 5 fingers while searching for Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com. Amidst a slight clicking sound, his slender 5 fingers left obvious marks on the table. As if someone had chopped or smashed it with a tool. And with the continuous strengthening of Zhenlian, his fingers were also constantly deepening, causing the tabletop to constantly break. Finally, without much effort, Zhenlian forcefully dug out a piece of wood from the solid wood table with his bare hands and squeezed it into his hand. Make the entire table have a large hole that is transparent from top to bottom. And he still has a feeling in his heart. That is, as long as he is willing, he can easily pierce through the walls of his room. Think of it here. He reached out his other hand and closed it with the palm that was holding the fragments of the table, wrapping the wood fragments and sawdust in the middle. Then the left and right hands began to rub rapidly. 2 seconds later. In high-speed friction, thick smoke began to emerge from the wood shavings that were repeatedly rubbed by the palms. After Zhenlian opens his palm. Not long ago. The flames began to slowly rise from the sawdust. It's in his hands. But he didn't feel any heat at all. Even the skin has no scars. Witness this scene. Zhenlian's face, illuminated by a hint of fire, suddenly showed a smile. Just awakened, is strength, speed, and defense all far superior to ordinary people. That's really good. As a lonely person in the previous life. Now, he has ample expectations for his future life in this life. Chapter 3. What type of life script? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Grasp it casually. After extinguishing the burning sawdust in hand. After a brief test of her current strength, Zhenlian slowly felt a sense of doubt and curiosity in her heart. I don't know what level of qualification I have among the awakened. Although the existence of the awakened has long been well known to ordinary people. But detailed and specific information is still impossible to be a secret that ordinary people can easily access. For ordinary people, only some relatively superficial and popular intelligence has been widely circulated. For example, awakeners are divided into several completely different levels of strength, so the strength and qualifications between awakeners are naturally very obvious. Among them, the lowest level awakener is called the initial awakening stage. The actual meaning is the stage of just beginning to awaken, like a newborn child. Next is the mature stage. The meaning is that the awakened person's various bodily functions have been awakened, as if they were a normally developing adult plus. The current Zhenlian has not fully tested its specific strength. So, without complete intelligence and comparable targets, he couldn't help but be curious about his level of qualifications among awakened ones. And I'm also a bit curious about what a high-level awakener really is like. However, if you want to come, his qualifications should not be considered inferior among the awakened because to his knowledge, low-level awakeners still belong to the type of modern weapons in the current world that can cause effective damage. Judging from his recent awakening, after he fully awakens, it shouldn't be much worse. At that time, Except for those powerful strategic weapons, he should be able to withstand or avoid all kinds of conventional weapons. In his opinion, if one's qualifications are very good, so in this life, even if one has obtained a genius script, in the future, one can fully unleash oneself, and even find ways to establish a power and dominate in the future. After all, many of my predecessors have even led to dozens of rounds of world wars. It is reasonable to assume a dominant and uncontrollable position by relying on one's own excellent qualifications, after being developed into a sleazy person. It cannot be said that it is excessive. If one's qualifications are average or relatively poor, it's obviously a bit difficult to dominate. Finding a remote and impoverished place to live in is actually a way to dominate the mountains. But it's not necessary. Having the leisure time to work alone can achieve the upper limit of one's head. It's better to rely on the awakened identity, good family background, and excellent external appearance to find a powerful force to join and make a living. For example, why not become a son-in-law or something in a large power? Isn't it beautiful? You should know that the identity of the awakened is a very useful thing. Just by registering with the Japanese government after awakening, one can unconditionally receive a national subsidy fund of 30 times the per capita monthly salary of the country every month. If he goes to work in a big power again, there will be various high salaries and subsidies waiting for him. The car and room will be delivered in minutes. Like the current West, God pity. I won't say anything else for now. Even the dumbest choice to move bricks can be used by dozens of people. Calculated based on the average salary of 250,000 yen for the vast majority of Japanese workers. That's already starting with a monthly salary of tens of millions. And many ancient families have a custom of recruiting awakened individuals to join their own camp and optimize their bloodline based on this situation. The orphan status of Shishinrien is simply the chosen son in the hearts of those big families. Having a clear and carefree background. Pull over and you'll be your true self. The entire set of configurations is the ultimate kill for various forces, a super big gift package that is moving around. Just slightly inferior to those who have been nurtured since childhood. Therefore, any big family that sees Shishinrien must speak up, even if his qualifications are not very good among awakened ones, they will still make the other party exclaim that they truly need this rare talent here, and the treatment will be preferential. Say it bluntly. In the son-in-law market on this planet, there is no doubt about Shishinrien's popularity. In the whole thing, the only small question is whether Shishinrien can bear to have such a face to be burdened. And the answer was already predetermined. He who doesn't stick to small details, is he the kind of guy who gives up eating and waiting to die just for the sake of small details and face? Don't mention that the child's surname is the same as the woman's after being introduced. As long as the conditions are suitable, he can change his name to the woman's surname. Anyway, his name was also chosen casually, just choose what you like. There is no inheritance meaning of a penny at all. It doesn't matter. Steady. Furthermore, what are the fears of being overweight? It's just that I'm afraid of losing status after getting married. Eating women's food and using women's food, it is indeed difficult to have any family status under normal circumstances. But he is an awakener. Any awakened person who invests in any power will be nurtured by others. Even if they join government departments, they can still be transferred to the cadre class in their original positions, and they can earn wages by squatting in the office and playing games every day. What things does he need to be afraid of? Even if he really gets involved and joins a big family, it can still be considered as a capital investment. The power of speech may not necessarily be high. But to some extent, there must still be some. There's no need to worry about someone slapping his face, the life of a worm is very stable. Think of it here. Shishinrien couldn't help but generate many unrelated associations. Speaking of which, I don't care at all about optimizing my bloodline, I just don't know if there are many beautiful single women in those big families. There should be many, after all, they are big families. If I were to marry into them, would they mind if I marry more beautiful female relatives? In terms of optimizing my bloodline, I think I might be able to take on more responsibility, and helping the female is my duty. Think deep into the matter. Shi Shenlian, who was planning to eat peaches, thought of the significant responsibility he might bear in the future. That bent waist. I couldn't help but straighten up. He feels that he is truly a promising future. Looking horizontally and vertically, there is always a promising future. When looking for a book garden www.zhaoshuyuan.com, be sure to stand up. As long as you put on the identity of an awakened person, the genius flow, the ordinary flow, and the useless flow are all profitable. It can be said that all roads lead to Rome, and any kind of life script is very good. Also known as long as the mind does not slide, there are always more solutions than difficulties. As for hiding one's name, completely not revealing one's own strength, and living an ordinary life all the time. Shi Shenlian never thought of such a thing at all. After all, he's not a fool, he always owes cigarettes when he's free. It's not the kind of classic idiot who even shouts, "No, I just want to live a simple life," after gaining strength. The power of Laozi is to allow oneself to enjoy happiness. It's not a problem to endure hardship. But blindly endure hardship. That's just being simple and foolish. Also at this time, Shi Shenlian, who was pondering what kind of life script he had and what genre he needed to follow, suddenly heard some movement. Ding, dot. In an instant. Listening to the crisp sound with a strong sense of immediacy echoing in my mind. A strange premonition immediately surged in his heart. And there was some subconscious speculation about the situation. The Life Winner system has been activated. Thank you for using it in this brief moment. Faced with the pop-up window and prompt sound that suddenly appeared in my mind. He was suddenly surprised and deeply understood that what he was holding was not a life script of genius flow or waste material flow, but a script of system flow. Wow, it's a bit cool. Chapter 4. Life Winner System. Luxury Supreme Customized Edition. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Faced with this handed-over system flow life script, Shi Shenlian first fell into a second of contemplation in an instinctive hesitation. Continuing. When he focused his attention on the system pop-up in his mind, he instinctively understood how to operate this thing. It's like the other party automatically transmitted some operation methods to him. Enter system panel. Yes/no. With his thoughts. Yes, selected. Then a table appeared in his eyes. System model. Life Winner System. Luxury Supreme Customized Edition, Origin. Crimson Heavenly Kingdom. Fallen Intelligence Weapon Council. Magic Weapon Secret Realm Heaven, Number. First Technical Department. Number 66666 Supreme Secret Case. Character Panel Interface. Expandable. Basic Settings Interface. Expandable. Human Service Hotline. Can be connected. This is really annoying. While feeling emotional, Shi Shenlian couldn't help but buckle her head. Not only does it have a production address and serial number, but also a service hotline. Just casually clicking on the basic settings interface, he saw many options within it. Intelligent AI. Not enabled. Type customizable. System interface BGM. Not enabled. Songs can be customized. System interface background pattern and icon settings. The degree of freedom of the operating interface is quite high. My grass, and BGM. These high degree of freedom options make Shi Shenlian feel a bit like she's researching a new computer. However, in the end, his gaze still came to the human service hotline. There's no way, this thing gave him a wonderful visual experience. After thinking about it, he chose to connect to the service hotline. Then, he felt like he had suddenly arrived at an area resembling a starry sky. In front of him, there suddenly appeared a black phone that was being dialed. He, who roughly understood what had happened, chose to reach out and catch it. And an inquiry was timely heard from the black phone. "Hello, respected user, may I ask if there is anything I can help with?" Although it has a somewhat mechanical texture in its voice, it still exudes a sense of flattery. I just want to ask, how did this system come about? While asking questions, Shi Shunlian couldn't help but think that the source of cheats is not usually revealed in the middle or even the end of the story. I just started, and the answer from the opposite side was also very fast. Just as Shi Shunlian finished asking, the opposite side replied. The customized products you are using are usually shipped to customers' specific needs, and we are not sure how customers deliver them to you. Damn it. This way of answering is really familiar. Oh, I remember, this seems to be a left and right reciprocal answer method. Okay. Then, Shi Shunlian asked a few irrelevant questions. For example, do you need to pay the cost of using this thing yourself? The answer is no need. As a user of luxury supreme customized products and even a super VIP customer across the street, one can permanently enjoy after-sales service. Including but not limited to system updates and maintenance. It just sounds great. And when facing the question from Shi Shunlian, who is the customizer of this thing? On the other side of the phone, it was also bluntly stated that the other party was known as the King of Crimson. It is said that he is a very awkward guy. Just before saying the name, the other person spoke in a licking dog style and forcefully used modifiers for 3 minutes. And for all the questions about Shi Shunlian, they are almost always answered. Very cooperative and with an extremely good attitude. After a while. Wishing you a happy life. When Shi Shunlian hung up the call amidst the other party's blessings, he couldn't help but fall into silence again. There are always several question marks flashing in my mind. However, after inquiring about it, although he still hasn't fully understood the actual situation, for example, he hasn't figured out why the guy who threw this thing to him is for. But he still knows very well that he has mostly made a profit. This kind of situation where others give themselves wallets and let themselves brush them casually. To be honest. After pondering for a few seconds, Shi Shunlian quickly and deeply obtained an answer. I have everything in hand. I am not at a disadvantage. I don't seem to have much need for hesitation, as the saying goes, if you can't figure it out, don't think, and just do it. Don't be afraid when facing the unknown, we should be brave enough to try. There's really going to be a problem, it's not a big deal to put it in place. As long as I mess up fast enough, then the conspiracy has nothing to do with me. Sure, I'm still very stable, think of it here. Shi Shunlian suddenly felt relieved. System. Open the character panel for me and let me know your role. Although he didn't need to speak, he still shouted a few words high and low at the moment. The next moment. The words have just finished. The character interface was quickly expanded in his eyes. Even. Along the way, there was a burst of opening remarks echoing. Welcome to experience the simple mode and even the enjoyable life without any difficulty life winner system. Luxury Supreme Customized Edition, providing you with professional services with utmost sincerity. Anyway, it's very professional. User. Shi Shunlian, race. Human, male, age. 18, status. Healthy, strength. First Awakener, native talent, ranking depends on strength, 1. Indulgent and reckless. The body, soul, and aptitude are greatly enhanced and automatically possess a self-improvement mechanism. The specific degree of expression depends on oneself. The more accessible and unobstructed one's thoughts and ideas are, the more excellent the actual effect of this talent will be. 2. Su Hui Awakened person. As a person who breaks through the mystery of pregnancy on their own and successfully awakens their own Su-Hui, their various qualifications have been greatly improved, including but not limited to physical qualifications and learning abilities. Find Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com. Extra talent, ranking depends on strength. 1. Standing at the pinnacle of wealth and fortune. The Life Winner system comes with an adaptive talent that allows users to automatically obtain various forms of wealth according to actual situations, including but not limited to resources, money, treasures. 2. Customization of wealth for Life Winners. The Life Winner system comes with an adaptive talent, which allows users to freely materialize various fully legal universal currencies and money based on the current situation. The number of uses is unlimited, and the maximum amount is always greater than the total limit of the currently contacted dungeons. At present, the achievable goals are official currencies of various countries on Earth, various levels of bank cards of all banks, network circulating virtual currencies with actual influence. Silver, gold, gems. System items, identity setting editing card, quantity 1. Users can edit their own identity settings to a certain extent, including but not limited to illegitimate children of a certain big family, direct descendants of a certain high-ranking official who have lost their lives, thus becoming a more reasonable winner in life. Built-in system space. 10 cubic meters, randomly increased daily, with a current random increase range of 1 cubic meter to 100 cubic meters per day. There is no air, sunlight, bacteria, or water inside. You can choose whether to pause the time in the built.in system space. Learning point. 1. Daily distribution of 1 point allows users' consciousness to instantly enter a specific learning space and study wholeheartedly for 7 days, while the external real world only lasts for a moment. Daily mood value lottery opportunity. 1. A lottery opportunity is allocated once a day, covering various things that users do not dislike and are indeed useful. Chapter 5. Mood Value Lottery. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Overall, the panel interface is not too complex. Each option will automatically be understood by Shishunlian when he focuses his attention on it. As for innate talent, it refers to the ability that he already possesses, which cannot be cancelled or checked and will automatically take effect at all times. Extra talent refers to the talent obtained through the system, which can be activated or not, like some customizable additional accessory. And system items, there's no need to explain this. The various system items he obtained from the system in the future, whether large or small, can be unconditionally saved in it. The same goes for built.in system space. I understand everything I know. Equivalent to growth-oriented space equipment. Classic features. It can be omitted, but it cannot be omitted. The learning points and daily lottery opportunities are more interesting. Both of these are automatic distribution benefits that automatically add 1 to the daily quantity. The former is very helpful for Zishenlian. Due to the rapid growth of his strength, he found himself struggling to control it, and a lack of attention could damage things. Even his original phone was grabbed by him in the morning when the screen cracked. I dare not touch it again. I'm afraid I might accidentally get blown up. This makes it difficult for him to even order takeout. I only had 1 meal today despite not going out. The opportunity to learn for 7 days in an instant. I think it should help him better adapt to his constantly rising power. At the very least, should we be able to prevent him from damaging various things? Or, could you ask for a lower point? Don't just kill or cripple others without paying attention. A guy who can lift a car with one hand can't control his power and walks around aimlessly. The picture is a bit too beautiful, it's just like a road roller rolling around everywhere. So he dare not go out now. In this regard, the education received by Shishunlian in this life has also been mentioned. Awakened individuals should try not to wander around or have close contact with their families when they first awaken. Otherwise, it is easy to cause accidents. It is best to notify the official directly by phone. At that time, there will be staff specifically coming to deliver food, drinks, and emotional comfort, as well as conducting physical examinations and information registration for you. Of course, that will inevitably lead to a lot of staff trying to persuade you to join the relevant department, both soft and hard. One is not good. You will also be on news and similar things. If the government were to communicate with the relatives and friends of the awakened again, do their ideological work, and finally let them do the ideological work of the awakened together, a complete set of combination punches will come down. So, generally speaking, the awakened are highly likely to be unable to withstand the attack. Those who will be directly promoted to work will be recruited on the spot. To be honest, that's not a bad thing. Anyway, the official treatment is actually very good. Moreover, family and friends are often able to follow suit and take on various positions, finding employment in their own places. But in that case, freedom will eventually be lower. Therefore, overall, this choice is more suitable for awakened individuals who have a family to support. For a lonely family like Shishunlian, he doesn't have any relatives or friends to take with him for employment. He just needs to eat and dress warmly, and there's no need to go to the official office to get involved in the muddy waters. Not to mention that he still harbors great ideals and always ponders finding a beautiful and wealthy woman. Can he easily hang out with a wealthy woman and wait for death? But what else does he have to work for? It's completely unnecessary. Wave hands continuously. JPG, therefore. Even if she had previously confirmed her identity as an awakened person, Shishunlian had no intention of reporting and was willing to starve for 2 meals. And contrast serves as a learning point. The daily mood lottery opportunity from the system is also very useful. According to the information Shishunlian learned from it, this lottery is a completely cost-free type, and there are no restrictions on the scope of the lottery. All the items drawn will be items that users do not dislike and are indeed useful. But how useful and liked it is, it's not easy to say. The quality of what this feature draws largely depends on the mood of Shishunlian on that day. The better Shishunlian's mood on that day, the greater the chance he has of getting good things. On the contrary, the worse his mood on the day, the less likely he is to get good things. So, this feature is called the Daily Mood Value Lottery Opportunity. The user's mood can cause a significant increase or decrease in probability. Although he may be in a bad mood, there is still a chance that he will get something good even based on the feedback received by Shishunlian. He can also specify to some extent what type of things he selects. The more he wants a certain type of system item, the higher the probability of him drawing that type of system item. Not only can it be referred to as the type of mind-locked lottery pool, it can be simply called a universal wishing machine to a certain extent. The daily usage count automatically increases by 1. Just think firmly about what you want. The better the mood that day, the higher the probability of success. Now, looking at the number of lottery draws, Shishunlian held the idea of trying, without much hesitation, and chose to use it directly. Give me something that I can use now. Then he saw the lottery box presented in his mind. There are 666 drum-like lottery machines operating on it. At the same time, Zhaozhuyuan.com there is also a classic lottery music echoing. As the music played, each drum device was rolling rapidly, and the speed was so fast that he couldn't see it clearly. And a red button appeared in his eyes. Based on information feedback, Shishunlian understood that it was the stop button. When I press it myself, 666 lottery drums with different items hidden inside will all stop. At that time, you only need to randomly select one to open. According to the differences in one's own thoughts and emotions, there may be slight differences in the types of things contained in the 666 drums during each lottery draw. For example, the proportion of various system items inside that are of the type you need depends purely on how firm your ideas are. Stop. All the drums suddenly came to a stop. Faced the same ones. Shi Shenlian did not observe too much. Because they all looked the same, I casually chose one from them. Accompanied by his choices. The next moment. The lottery drums other than the target immediately disappeared. And the lottery drum came in front of Shi Shenlian. Automatically reveals something within it. A crystal card shimmering with a faint purple glow. There are numerous patterns and annotations on it. Professional inheritance card. String master, this profession is an extraordinary profession from a certain time and space, with the ability to manipulate threads for various operations. After using the card, the user will automatically receive the inheritance memory and equipment of the profession. Chapter 6. Identity Setting Editing Card. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The next day. At 8:20 in the morning. It's still that rundown apartment. However, the passers-by noticed something unusual. That is a row of very nice cars parked in front of the gate of a dilapidated apartment building that is only a few floors high. Although not considered a top-tier luxury car. But they are all high-end vehicles that are a bit difficult for the working class to reach. This is obviously not a normal thing for this rundown apartment. So the nearby residents couldn't help but cast curious glances. Then they could see several people in suits and shoes standing at the open door of a room in the hallway on the 4th floor of the apartment. It's not that they're willing to stand here. But there are more people in the room. This old and dilapidated room with an area of only over 20 square meters can no longer fit them as the user of the room. Shi Shenlian was inside, holding a pile of documents and looking at them with great interest. The title of that pile of documents is Legacy Gift Agreement. The deceased was a foreign tycoon who lived to the age of 90. The assets of the other party are almost all shares of various companies and investments. And through the realization before the other party's death. The total value is approximately 650 billion yen. Looking at the entire planet, there is no doubt that it is a wealthy person. And it's pure cash flow. And the beneficiaries are also very clear. It's none other than Shi Shenlian. Mr. Shi Shenlian, according to Mr. Tom Turn's last wish, as the benefactor who once helped him, you have become the sole heir to all of his estate. In order to facilitate your management, he has already realized all of his assets in advance. Next, you only need to complete the relevant procedures to directly obtain the right to use the estate. The speaker was a middle-aged white woman in a suit and leather shoes, who looked very serious. Although she has a slightly whiter skin color than Japanese people. But overall. Except for some features. Actually, it's not much different from Japanese people. And this situation is a normalized phenomenon in this world. This world is also divided into yellow, white, and black people. But everyone's ancestors were from Atlantis, and they only separated from each other 100,000 years ago. And this matter is already some kind of consensus. So, there is not much exclusion between different races. Furthermore, even due to environmental reasons, there have been ethnic differences within human civilization for over 100,000 years. The degree of variability is actually not significant. Like the black people of this world. In fact, it is almost as dark as the yellow race people in the previous life after a certain degree of skin darkening. A bit inclined towards a lighter coffee color. So, overall, there is not much difference between the three races. Even after the destruction of Atlantis, the world still had a unified empire, and communication between continents was almost never interrupted. This has made it common for residents of various countries to wander back and forth, achieving a higher degree of globalization than in the previous world. After repeated twists and turns, progress and decline, the level of technology is now at a more advanced level than the previous life. For example, so-called nuclear weapons have been developed for hundreds of years, and even controllable nuclear fusion has been around for over 100 years. But in the field of outer space, humans in this world are not as enthusiastic. Because for the human civilization here, the available resources of the parent planet are completely more than enough in the current period. And as early as tens of thousands of years ago, thanks to a high-level awakener who was idle and pained, human civilization actually had enough understanding of the entire solar system. The high-level awakener at that time brought some local resources directly from various planets, including a gift package of soil from various planets weighing several thousand tons. Pluto, Mars, all of them were taken back with some resources. As far as Shishunlian knows, due to insufficient propulsion from rocket engines, the space travel time may be too long, and in addition, Emperor Shangao is likely to have an accident at present. Many scientists believe that interstellar colonization is not a big deal at the moment, and the situation still needs further development. Regarding outer space, countries are particularly concerned about the field of space satellites. This is true for both military and civilian use. Electronic signal transmission, ultra-remote monitoring systems in the current era. Undoubtedly, it is more worth looking forward to than a space trip with little profit. Lower investment. The returns are also faster. A few minutes later, after the foreign woman in front of her explains the general situation, in front of the camera and the impartial person, Shishunlian, who had signed on the document, timely replied, "Okay, I have no further questions." And the woman faced his answer with a smile. As executor and lawyer, after completing the task, her commission was also completely received. Of course. That being said, looking at the young boy in front of her who had picked up a large amount of money for no reason and was designated by the wealthy as having the only inheritance right, she still felt a pang of sadness in her heart. Damn it. Can any elderly person on the road inherit so much money? What's more, it's very sour. She's so sour that she's almost biting her back teeth. However, even though she was sour to this point, her good professional ethics still allowed her to maintain a decent appearance. Very good, then let Ms. Gujinglihua from March Bank hand over the follow-up situation to you. After she moves away, another younger woman, about 35 years old, took the initiative to step forward and introduced herself to Shishunlian with a smile. Dear Sir Shishunlian, please find the Shuyuan website at www.zhaoshuyuan.com. The inheritance funds you have now arrived in our bank account. So, you are already a super customer of our bank. Say it. She also took out a black box with gorgeous patterns on its surface from beside her. After opening it, she showed the items to Shishunlian. That is a black metal bank card with a unique number on the surface. This is a super card specially arranged by our bank for you. With it, you will enjoy our personalized services anywhere in the world. And we will provide you with a 24/7 personal assistant service, with a whole team dedicated to handling various affairs. You can communicate with us if you have any needs, and we will do our best to complete it for you. Half an hour later, after all the staff members respectfully left, Shishunlian, who refused their arrangement to keep 2 bodyguards to protect her safety, looked at the super card in her hand and couldn't help but smile on her face. Does he know any super rich people? I don't know. I haven't taken care of any sick foreign elderly people. The reason for all of this is simply something he set for himself using the identity setting editing card gifted by the Life Winner system. The biggest effect is to make everything look more rational when he spends money recklessly in the future. Ordinary people spend money recklessly, which is very noticeable. If it were a lucky person inheriting billions of wealth, it would undoubtedly be reasonable. Is it a problem for overnight millionaires to spend money recklessly? There is no problem with nature. Chapter 7. The Life Script of Invincible Flow. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Spin the super card from March Bank at your fingertips like playing with a small card. Shi Shunlian was just a thought. A large stack of other bank cards suddenly appeared in front of him. These sudden appearance of bank cards were something he self-actualized using the Life Winner wealth customization function of the Life Winner system. Each one is a super customer card for major banks around the world. Some cards are even higher in level than the super card given by the March Bank. These super cards. Each one represents the previous moment when a new bank account was created, with at least trillions of yen or more of funds in it. More importantly, it is completely legal. Every fund is clear and traceable. Even if the National Department personally intervenes, they cannot find anything wrong. No matter how you investigate, it is all legal property. Even if the funds are so large that they look unreasonable, it's the same. As long as Shi Shunlian is willing. He can even create trillions of dollars in cash flow out of thin air in a country with total assets of tens of trillions, easily sparking a financial storm and causing countless investors to queue up and jump off buildings. Extra talent. Life Winner's wealth customization right, this feature allows him to monetize funds that are always greater than the total amount of the areas he contacts. For now. That is to say, regardless of the total value of all things on earth, the funds possessed by Shi Shunlian will be greater than the sum of that number. Moreover, Shi Shunlian also discovered that these functions are all adaptive functions, which automatically change and upgrade over time and environment. If the universal currency in this world is money, so the financial flow that Shi Shunlian possesses is presented in the form of money. If the universal currency of this world is various spiritual stones in the cultivation world, so the capital flow of Shi Shunlian is various spiritual stones and even miraculous elixirs. If the universal currency of this world is population, soul, and land, so Shi Shunlian will also gain the ability to directly embody the population, soul, and land. And this feature is just one of the basic functions that comes with the Life Winner system. Based on the feedback provided by the mood value lottery. As long as Shi Shunlian needs it, he can easily draw countless additional talents of similar intensity through the mood value lottery, and then load them together on existing system modules. After understanding these things, Shi Shunlian deeply understood. What I have taken is not simply a system flow life script. I'm just playing invincible little games myself. The words, Luxury Supreme Customized Edition, hanging behind the Life Winner system, are genuine products, not simple advertising slogans looking around. All difficulties and obstacles. It seems like they are just insignificant stones in his life. The Life Winner system, a concise term, refers to the system that immediately makes users become life winners on the spot. But Shi Shunlian thought he could easily win by lying flat all the way. You don't need to move a single step throughout the entire process. What stands out is that there are no tasks, no restrictions, and you can do whatever you like. Not just many wealthy women. You can have as many rich women as you want now. Damn it, this corrupt life is too comfortable. Just think about your future days. Shi Shunlian, who was playing with cards, was already enjoying herself. Many of the plans that he had been pondering in his heart were directly thrown into the garbage heap of history. What other plans does he need in this situation? No need at all. All are cattle and horses. Just close your eyes and level A all the way. The next moment, all bank cards, including the super card in his hand, disappeared and were taken into the system space by him. Shi Shunlian looked at his right palm. Lift it up high. Then grip it little by little. Feeling the immensely fulfilling sense of power within. He understands that he still needs to restrain himself to some extent. It's not because of anything else. Just because life games need to be played for a little longer. If you go too far, you may have to consider quickly clearing the levels and lying idle every day. The life of this life. I need to have a good experience myself. Continuing. He turned his gaze to certain gifts around him. That's all the meeting gifts that those guys brought before. Most of them are luxury goods or high-end fruits, all of which are expensive. Stay here for another day, the power hasn't been fully controlled yet. If it weren't for getting used to one's own strength through studying last night. When he was signing today, he probably had to crush the pen. So. The next moment. A learning point that automatically refreshes in the early morning. He once again immersed his consciousness into the learning space he had previously used. That is an incredibly spacious place. The environment looks like an endless vast grassland. And it's not just the grassland. As long as it is the environment that Zheshlian has encountered, simulation can be conducted here. At the first use. Zhaozhuiyuan.com here, external information is also automatically connected, collecting various conventional network information from the outside world. For a modern society. That is to say, here we automatically have almost all the conventional information. This includes but is limited to a range of information about the world, including mathematical knowledge, physical knowledge, language knowledge, and more. At present. As long as Zheshlian is willing. He can always extract corresponding content from it for systematic learning. And there are 4 basic functions here. 1. Definition of gravity. The current Zheshlian can freely adjust the gravity environment here. At present, the upper limit is 1,000 times that of the outside world, and ordinary people have to become a pot of meat sauce in an instant. 2. Accelerate learning. When entering here, the user's various distractions will be forcibly sorted out, automatically entering a state of serious learning, so as to work wholeheartedly, equivalent to hanging a buff. 3. Internal and external adjustments. The knowledge gained by users here can be directly brought out, but the growth in physical fitness requires gradual adaptation and cannot be directly brought out because the external body has not received the corresponding developmental nutrition. So, the increase in various physical fitness aspects will turn into a progress bar. Users can continuously load progress bars by supplementing with a large amount of nutrients from the outside world, thereby achieving full realization of various progress and promoting rapid physical development. 4. Health status adjustment. Users can freely adjust their own health status in the learning space, including unlimited energy, ignoring hunger. Thus being able to practice various high-risk techniques at will. Chapter 8. Power. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After arriving at the learning space. On the 10 slender fingers of Zheshlian, 10 rings automatically appeared according to his thoughts. 10 circular gold rings with strange patterns on the surface but appearing exceptionally gorgeous. These 10 rings are the professional inheritance card. String master that he drew in the lottery yesterday, and the inheritance equipment he brought. Not only exceptionally hard. Each ring has dozens of hidden spouts on it. The special silk thread they spray, which is hundreds of times thinner than spider silk, can easily withstand extremely strong tensile force, as well as high temperature, low temperature, corrosion resistance based on the information recorded in the career inheritance card. As a profession that originated from a certain extraterrestrial interstellar era. These rings are actually some kind of technological product, equipped with a special power source inside. As long as it is used reasonably, it can be used indefinitely. Don't worry about not having enough silk thread or anything. Moreover, through the absorption of inherited information, Zheshlian also saw a large number of actual combat scenes of the String Master. As a combat class active in the interstellar era. From cutting open thousands of living people to cutting open spacecraft over 10 kilometers long, everything is achievable. Although it is not easy to say which group of awakened beings in this world are stronger or weaker, the intensity is already sufficiently guaranteed, and it will be enough for Zheshlian to use it for a period of time. And as a highly refined profession that requires simultaneous operation of a large number of fine threads. A string master emphasizes how to finely manipulate one's own strength. This makes most of their skills particularly focused on how to control their own strength. There are also a large number of unique training methods specifically designed for this purpose. This is particularly important for Shi Shunlian, who is currently struggling to control her own strength, and is the focus of it. So, the last learning point was completely applied to familiarizing oneself with the string master. Of course, this time, it's the same. Before fully controlling one's own strength, he doesn't plan to invest much attention into the other projects. Externally, in an instant, Shi Shunlian's consciousness has returned smoothly. Just got out of that 7-day non-stop and uninterrupted training. Although my body is not tired, but there was still a noticeable sense of fatigue in his gaze. Due to the semi-mandatory nature of the learning space, users are required to concentrate. So, while learning efficiency will certainly be improved many times, the level of fatigue will also increase many times simultaneously, and there will be feedback to users along with learning outcomes at the end of learning. Study there for 7 days and 7 nights. It feels a bit like an ordinary person working overtime for 2 consecutive months, standing on the assembly line for 20 hours every day, without any relaxation. So, at this moment, he, whose consciousness has just returned, the biggest feeling is that living seems to have lost its flavor. This is a wonderful feeling that feels like working overtime to the point of being mentally and physically exhausted. However, as soon as he thought of the Invincible Lu Shuangwen life script he was holding, he made a resolute decision to stick to it. He slapped himself 3 times with a bang. Shi Shunlian, you must stand on your side. The suffering I'm experiencing now is just to make others suffer more. Thinking of wanting to enjoy happiness and bully men and women in the future, Shi Shunlian's mood value directly increases by 10. The thought of what he is suffering now is to make others suffer more in the future. The pity of West God is worth plus 100 in his mother. Think deeply. As a scumbag and a bad guy. Feeling like his mind was instantly clear, Shi Shunlian, who was infused with new energy, forcefully stiffened. That domineering life is still waiting for him. Then there was no movement from him, and a gift box around him broke apart. Exposed the carefully packaged high-end fruit among them. Continuing. One of the fruits flew straight up to Shi Shunlian and hung in front of him, obediently taking a bite. If someone is holding a magnifying glass for observation at this time, then you can clearly see the various corners of the entire room. At some point, it was already filled with various threads that were difficult to see with the naked eye. Their existence is like a spider web. Directly turning the entire room into the territory of Shi Shunlian, he instantly cut off every mosquito in the room. And their source is the ring on the 10 fingers of Zishenlian. At present. As long as he is willing. So just move your finger and you can cut the entire room into countless pieces. Even the tactile sensation and reaction force when cutting into the room wall through silk thread. The feeling of cutting walls like cutting air. Shi Shunlian is able to judge something very clearly. That's all you need to do is wave your hand and cut off the entire apartment. Along with each resident. Cut off this 10-story building, each floor divided into 20 tenants, and the entire apartment is made of concrete and steel bars. Cut it into countless pieces. For him now, it's not much harder to cut off a piece of tofu than an ordinary person. This kind of power, the feeling of controlling the life and death of others, he couldn't help but laugh out loud. Although I am aware that this power is not worth much for myself, who possesses a life winner system. But the feeling of truly grasping power still touched him quite a bit. So he laughed directly. After a long time. Zhaoshuyuan.com. He washed his face for himself. Change your shoes and walk towards the door. When he twisted the old door handle and pushed the door open. Faced with the gentle sunlight falling from a high altitude in the sky. He squinted his eyes slightly. His current vision can clearly see every feather of those flying birds at an altitude of 1 kilometer. Continuing. He stepped out of the room. By the way, he also took out his own rotten phone, which had cracks on the screen due to not controlling his power before. Having mastered his own strength, he casually closed the door and selected a phone number from his phone's contact list to call. More than 10 seconds later. When the phone is successfully connected. A sound that sounded a bit tired or hadn't woken up much was heard from across the street. Hello. What's going on? Faced with the inquiry, Ji Shenlian slowly walked down the stairs with a contented expression while politely asking. Ms. Shanduo. Yes. I am a tenant at number 11, 4th floor. Upon hearing this, the other party immediately remembered who Ji Shenlian was. Oh, it's you. The most handsome young person in the entire apartment. But the drawbacks are also very obvious. Not only is his brain a bit abnormal, but he is also a visible impoverished household. But she still had some confusion. Do you want to renew the lease? No, I want to buy your apartment. Chapter 9. Sensory Ability. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Due to living in the Arakawa area, which is a civilian area, it is not considered good. It can only be considered at a slightly below average level. Walking on the long street, Ji Shenlian naturally felt a sense of antiquity filling her surroundings. That feeling is like watching an elderly person entering old age. However, all of this is completely unimportant to him. Now, no matter where he goes, he can only feel that life is full of sunshine and beauty. There's no way. What else do you need a bicycle for now that you have embarked on an invincible journey in your life? There's no need to care about that little thing at all. Oh. Oh my God. The world is really his mother beautiful. While feeling emotional, he was passing by a snack cart at the intersection and smelling the fragrance emanating from the other person's booth. Although we can clearly smell a smell of essence from the big pot where things are cooking. But Ji Shenlian also completely ignored it. Stretch it out casually. In front of the vendor, who seemed to see magic in his eyes, a large denomination banknote of 10,000 yuan was transformed and handed to the other party. Give me a flavored octopus with more scallions and sauce. Oh, this magic is really good. I don't know if Ji Shenlian is actually the vendor who rubbed a bill out on the spot, praising the other party for being able to perform magic at will, but also speaking with a somewhat embarrassed expression. But little brother, I don't have that much change here right now. Can I transfer money through mobile phone? It's okay, you don't need to change the money, just give me the things. In this world, online payment has been around for over 100 years, with a mature system in place. But due to the lack of signal in many remote areas, coupled with the possibility of a low battery on mobile phones, and a series of other reasons. So the tradition of using paper money has always been preserved. It's just that the number of users has relatively decreased with the changing times. Here's Ji Shenlian's words. Looking at the 10,000 denomination banknotes handed over by Ji Shenlian, and then looking at Ji Shenlian's poor attire. The vendor immediately appeared hesitant. Are you serious? 10,000 yen, although not too much, is still the salary of the vast majority of people for a whole day. Of course, I've given you all the money. Just give me the things as soon as possible. Okay then. Although I am a bit confused about the situation. But the vendor, who was secretly happy in his heart, couldn't help but smile on his face. A few minutes later. Sitting in a taxi. Holding food in a cardboard box. Ji Shenlian used a toothpick to prick a cut octopus leg that was still steaming hot, put it in his mouth, and casually chewed it. The taste is good. But the spice flavor is too strong. Although at the moment when something entered his mouth, he instinctively gave the food a negative review. But he is very clear. Actually, there shouldn't be any problems with things, it's oneself who has problems. Just awakened, although he has undergone 2 adjustments and adaptations in the learning space, he has mastered his own power output situation and can effectively avoid causing various damages to external objects. But certain bodily functions are still somewhat overly sensitive. taste, smell, hearing, vision are all like this. Now, he can see flowers and plants more than 10 kilometers away with the naked eye, hear insects chirping in a radius of several kilometers with his hearing, and easily smell the smell of every pedestrian outside the taxi, to be honest. All of this is for him, who has not yet fully adapted to sensory changes. It's not something comfortable. All kinds of noisy sounds were louder in his ears than bars, seriously interfering with his hearing. A too good gaze allows him to see the pores on someone else's skin, which is somewhat disgusting. His excellent sense of smell made him feel that he was in a strange place, a huge toilet full of perfume and feces. All of this made him realize that he needed to further adjust himself. However, at present, the reason why he comes out to wander is not only to plan to buy something, but also to adapt to his actual situation more quickly in the outside world. He can feel it. As one constantly comes into contact with various external objects. Some instincts deep within the body are also recovering on their own. This will gradually give him the ability to regulate his senses. In over 20 minutes. After casually losing tens of thousands of yen to the driver. Upon arriving at the bustling area of the Arakawa district, Nishishin Lien calmly chewed on the last piece of octopus meat. At this moment, his taste system has been adjusted to a state close to that of an ordinary person. This allows him to fully taste the deliciousness of the food. And his vision and hearing were both stimulated by external stimuli, and he also adjusted them to a degree close to that of an ordinary person. And it can be easily switched and finely adjusted, like some kind of precision instrument. After throwing the empty cardboard box into the nearby trash can, he glanced directly above his head, staring straight at the gradually bright sun. On the way, his pupils are also constantly contracting. This brought his gaze to a level comparable to many telescopes. In this perspective of the sun, it is already the brightness that can blind the eyes of ordinary people. Zhaozuiyuan.com. The act of directly observing with the naked eye is completely equivalent to directly observing a flare in an explosion. But Shi Shunlian, who was looking up at the sky, did not feel any glaring, and her gaze remained so clear. It's as if his eyes can directly adapt to changes in light. And the fact is indeed so. In the learning space, by adjusting the environment, he had long discovered that his eyes had the ability to adapt to the environment. Even in the late night, the vast majority of vision can be preserved. As for breathing, now he can easily achieve an hour without breathing. This means he can even swim to the deep sea without the help of auxiliary tools. The obvious changes in his senses and physiology made him feel as if he was transforming into another species not long after. Is the life of an ordinary person like that of a superhero? Shi Shunlian, who withdrew her gaze, smiled lightly on her face and walked straight towards the street ahead. That is the gathering place for various high-end brand clothing in Arakawa district. It was also a place where he used to only choose to pass by and dare not enter. For the poor. Walk inside. It's just as uncomfortable as a dog being illuminated by a spotlight. And now, Shi Shunlian needs to go there and get herself dressed up. I won't say anything else for now. Although I am not cold at all. But in winter, wearing short sleeves and swaying around can be a bit inappropriate, and in order to better enjoy their own life, dressing up is always an inevitable issue. Chapter 10. Eyewitness Technique. You are listening at novelfull.audio. To be honest, as a layman who doesn't care about fashion, Shi Shunlian has no understanding of any clothing brands. The same goes for various luxury goods. So, after wandering around the bustling streets casually, his way of choosing a store was very simple and rough. 1. The largest store. 2. The decoration is the most luxurious. 3. The waiter is the most beautiful. 4. There are men's clothing for sale inside. After finding a store that meets all the above conditions, he didn't even bother to look at the store's name, so he walked straight over. On the way. Facing him, the security guard standing at the door also had a slightly conflicted expression. In theory, according to the rules, these guys who can't dress properly at first glance need to be stopped. As a place where every piece of clothing starts with 6 digits. They must not let poor people who dress indecently and wander around enter the store to disturb the elegance of internal customers. But the 10 exquisite rings in Shi Shenlian's hands shone with peculiar radiance in their perspective. That thing seems to have a very expensive radiance. Furthermore, although Shi Shenlian's attire is not good, her good appearance does not make her looked down upon. That calm and composed expression didn't seem to be causing trouble. Perhaps they are really wealthy people. Just dressed too plainly. A few security guards in suits and leather shoes looked very professional, but when they approached, they also felt a bit hesitant in their hearts. My thoughts hover on the edge of whether or not to stop. Finally, one of the security guards is still planning to intervene and stop the other party. Sir, we require wearing. He originally intended to say that it is required to dress neatly here, please change your clothes and come back. However, not waiting for him to finish speaking, Shi Shenlian just glanced at him, and the security guard felt a great sense of fear emerging from his heart. That feeling was like walking in the wilderness at night and suddenly encountering a group of tigers. The scalp above his head suddenly felt like an electric shock, causing the hair on the head to stand upside down one after another. The originally rosy and healthy complexion also turned pale directly. The legs, which stood straight as a discharged soldier, became even softer. Only the upper body is extremely stiff. I dare not even move. The words in his mouth. Of course, it is also impossible to continue. Until Shi Shenlian calmly walked past and entered the store, he remained motionless for a long time. What are you doing? A few seconds passed by. His companion looked at him with wide eyes and couldn't help but push him a few times. I thought you were trying to stop people. Then, his companion noticed that the other person was completely prone to pushing and falling. And he was lying limp on the ground, panting heavily. Sweat poured down from above the forehead. It's like being seriously ill or just narrowly escaping death. It also surprised the surrounding companions. Do you have acute illness? And as Shi Shenlian, who had already walked into the store, listened to the commotion behind her, she calmly thought to herself. It seems a bit heavy. Eyewitness technique. This is one of the advanced techniques inherent in the String Master inheritance. Enable users to use their own spiritual power to create a deterrent or fearful effect on the target through eye contact. Although it may not necessarily have a significant impact on the strong, being able to have an immediate impact during combat is enough. For the weak, it can directly cause excessive fear, shock, and even death on the spot. This makes it both a deterrent measure and a form of assassination, capable of causing the target to die instantly without any trauma. Based on inheritance information. This is a relatively advanced technique, and theoretically only experienced string masters can use it freely. But to be honest, this technique was learned by Shi Shenlian just by looking at it once. Even the other various techniques are also similar. Almost at the same time as obtaining inheritance skills, he automatically learns most of them. Automatically entering fields that others need decades of time to reach. For him, the so-called difficulty. It is more reflected in the fact that strength and experience are not sufficient, and using certain skills directly may harm oneself in this aspect. And just now was his first official use of Eyewitness. Due to lack of experience, he didn't dare to use a lot of mental energy, only a small amount of his own mental energy, about 1/1000th of the total. I just wanted to give the other party a psychological deterrent effect. But when he successfully uses it, he still heard through his own hearing that the security guard had experienced a sudden cardiac arrest. That's facing excessive stimulation. A sign of being scared to death on the spot. So he added a touch later, using secondary stimulation to stimulate the other person's heartbeat and give them a cardiac resuscitation. This situation certainly makes the other party stiff on the spot and limp all over. But life was saved. Soon. As he officially walked into the store. Just now, Ji Shunlian, who had almost achieved her first kill, approached a female salesperson who was about 30 years old, with light makeup on her face, wearing a women's suit on her upper body, a slim-fitting short skirt on her lower body, and black high heels. She had a very good physique and appearance. The other party may be a bit puzzled as to why Ji Shunlian is wearing this outfit. Zhaozhuyuan.com. But the security guard outside did not stop anyone. In addition, Ji Shunlian's facial expression was very calm, completely ignoring the luxurious environment around her, just like strolling on the street with composure. A look that is accustomed to entering and exiting high-end stores. So, out of trial and service standards. She didn't show any disdain, but politely smiled and asked. "Sir, welcome to our place. May I ask if you have any needs? I want a complete set of clothing and shoes from the inside out." A positive answer when you hear this and say you want to buy something. The female salesperson immediately felt that this was indeed a customer and asked more politely. "Okay, I understand. Do you have any specific standards? For example, in what situations? Or in terms of price range and fabric selection?" Upon hearing this, Ji Shunlian first said, "Any fabric is fine, as long as it can be worn daily." Then, he made a request that was not considered a requirement. "As for the price, just give me the most expensive standard." It has to be said. Such a simple and reasonable request is simply an extremely deadly attack. On the spot, she broke through the psychological defense and subsequent words of the female guide. As a salesperson, who can refuse such customers? At least she can't. She likes this kind of request that is particularly simple, rough, and overly rationalized. It's just a moment. The words of Ji Shunlian not only made her smile more vivid, but also made her waist bend more. "Okay, please follow me."